Welcome back. As we reflect on Workers' Day or May Day today, the conversation on whether the workforce of the future will continue to reflect the dramatic shift in the global business landscape that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns. This also forced offices to close and employees to work remotely from their homes, utilizing online virtual communication technologies. A Workforce of the Future survey conducted in Europe, Middle East and Africa by Cisco says employees want to retain some aspects of remote working, such as increased autonomy and faster decision making. However, only 5% of those surveyed worked from home prior to lockdown. Another study, Remote Working in South Africa 2020, conducted by World Wide Worx, reveals that at the time of the lockdown, only 37% of companies were somewhat prepared for the sudden switch to remote working. Less than a quarter had a detailed digital transformation strategy that had enabled the digitalisation of all processes within organisations. To talk further about South Africa and what the future of work is and will be, we're joined now by Professor Tshilidzi Marwala, who is a Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. Prof, a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, is it fair to say that how we should be framing talk about the future of work today is where high-powered tech tools integrate with our physical and biological world?
No, thank you very much, Tsepiso, for inviting me. Of course, the COVID pandemic has changed the dynamics, but it is also the fourth industrial revolution that has changed the dynamics. So what has been happening in the workforce, automation has been decimating the world of work. So because of that, factories are becoming smaller in terms of the number of people. Now, with COVID-19, now we are realizing that we don't actually need to have people come to work in order for them to be productive. Now, it has all sorts of implications as to the nature of offices. Some of the organizations have big offices, and the people who maintain those offices. And of course, this is going to have an impact on unemployment. This is a revolution that we cannot allow to leave us behind.
Prof, what I find interesting is that a significant proportion of South African employees do not work in an office environment. However, digitization and technology has impacted all sectors of the economy. How is this?
Yes. Well, digitization has impacted all sectors of economy simply because production has moved towards tools. I will give you an example. Call centers. Call centers are increasingly being automated. Chat boxes are replacing human beings that used to work in call centers. If you go to fast moving consumer goods, the companies that make our soaps, they make all sorts of foods, you will realize that much of the production now is automated. For example, there is a company that used to employ 4,000 people in Kebesha, in Eastern Cape, and it can be operated by 50 people. And the production has not gone down. So automation is a big driver of the future of work going into the future.
And another interesting trend that has been noted is that, that's according to the South African real estate industry, that there's been a marked increase in working professionals, so-called semigrating from the cities to smaller coastal and inland villages and towns in the past few months. Does this mean that we're likely to see more development in these areas because of this?
Well, obviously now that we are working in the digital platform, it basically means I can now go to Limpopo province and actually do quite a lot of things that I'm supposed to do while I am there. Of course, as a Vice Chancellor, that will be quite difficult. So as a result, the need for people to be in a big city is not as important as it used to be. But for that to continue, for that trend to continue, connectivity in those small towns must actually be good. If you go around small towns, if you go to villages, you will realize that internet is still not as fast as if you are in urban areas. So we need to deal with issues of infrastructure so that our people can be able to work from all corners of our country.
So South African businesses, when asked whether or not they're going to change their remote working strategy for the post-COVID-19 crisis, the vast majority, that's one of 81% of the respondents of the survey that I mentioned, said they were not, but might consider doing so in the future. What is the danger of not adapting to this new normal? And is this new normal really the new normal, or is there going to be another new normal?
Well, I mean, the people in the medical fraternity are telling us that this is not the end of pandemics. In fact, we are increasingly going to see pandemics. Now, if the post-COVID is really a post-world where pandemics are part of us, then all of us will have to seriously think about working remotely. One of the things that we have realized here at the University of Johannesburg is that we found that students are performing much, much better remotely than when they are on campus. And I'm sure if you go to many companies, you'll realize that certain class of jobs, the workers are much more productive when they are working remotely than when they are working in their offices. So these are important issues that we cannot just ignore. We have to study them so that we can be able to craft the future of work that is going to work for all people in South Africa, whether businesses or the general population of South Africans.
Prof, I'd like to take you to something that has been in the public domain and has been a source of contention, the issue of the hiring of Cuban engineers. Now, we talk about disruption in a positive way, but the question does arise, do we have a sufficient supply of advanced engineering talent for the needs of our country at this stage? And are those to be found domestically, or do we have to continue the collaboration transnationally?
Well, if we were to benchmark ourselves with economies of our size and populations of our size, no, we don't have enough skills. But when we say we don't have enough skills, people come to me and say, but you do have people who are qualified who do not have jobs. Now, the question is why? The reason is very, very simple. South Africa is struggling to transition its economy into the fourth industrial revolution. And as a result, much of the things that we used to make in South Africa, when I was growing up, the shoes that I wear, the clothes that I used to wear, were all made in South Africa. Now we are importing absolutely everything, including things that we used to produce in the past. As a result, we do not have enough jobs, even for those small number of engineers whom we produce. But going forward, the situation cannot remain as it is. Our economy has to be revitalized. Otherwise, the issue of unemployment, otherwise the issue of inequality and poverty are not going to be dealt with.
Prof,
yes, we need more influence.
Such a pity that we've run out of time, and hopefully next time we'll talk a little bit more about digital literacy and what is required for that. But thank you as always for your time and your insights, Professor Tshilidzi Marwala, who is a Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg.